I got to find something spicy.
I'm really excited about this.
I want your hottest.
Okay, we'll do it.
People are always dying to heat.
They blow up or whatever.
I fell out of my chair.
Little hot sauce in the yogurt.
I'm not going to let them have all the fun.
Squid jerky.
They're overwhelmed.
Really?
Oh my gosh, no.
You're listening to The Hot Sauce Show, the place to meet hot sauce makers and enthusiasts. Let's jump right in. Hey everyone, welcome to The Hot Sauce Show. My name is Zack. I'm your host. Today we have Dino Ferri of Hotter Than Hell and also Spice is Nice. Dino, happy to have you here.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me in.
Yeah, this is fantastic, and I'm glad we could make this work on your way home from a show. That's really awesome. So I like to get right into it and just start off with what inspired you to get into making hot sauce?
I've always liked hot, and on the hotter end, some call it stupid hot. And a lot of the super hot sauces, they're loaded with sweeteners and sugars. No knock on those that use it, but being a diabetic, I wanted something that, with not all that added sweetness. So I started coming out with sauces that have no sugars or sweeteners. So not one sauce in my lineup has any sugar or sweeteners in it.
Wow, that's impressive. And how long ago was that?
This is my 8th year in the business.
8th year, wow. And what was your first sauce?
My first sauce was a sauce called Scorpion Sting. It's a Thai curry based sauce.
Yeah.
It was my very first.
And what do you like to eat that on?
Seafood, mainly fish.
Seafood?
Yeah, I love curries on fish.
And is that a sauce you still make?
It is. It's my very first sauce, and it was it got picked up by a local restaurant chain immediately. So I thought, man, this hot sauce gig is easy. How was I wrong?
Little did you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then, so tell me, how did it evolve from there? What's your kind of approach with coming out with new flavors?
I like to be something different. I say that, but I have mango habanero. Most companies have mango habaneros. They're common because it's a great pairing. I'm never worried about, people thinking that you're cheating or copying. There's just only so much you can do. But I just like to be different. My blueberry Vietnamese cinnamon is one of my more awkward. And when I tell people when they taste it, I tell them, this will be the most unusual sauce you taste today. Guarantee it. But it's popular. People like different.
That's awesome. So when you're going about creation, are you more of a, I've talked to a bunch of folks, and some people come up with a name or the label, and then they backtrack into the sauce, or they say, I'm going to do it with this pepper, or what's kind of your starting inspiration?
I like to come up with something. I try to find something that's not used a lot. Either could be a pepper, it could be a fruit, a produce, and start there. So I have a couple. I have one with a persimmon. It's a recipe, and it is amazing. We haven't been able to nail it down yet, but that will probably be my next fruit-based sauce.
Really?
So it's just that I go home and I mess with it in my kitchen. It's not a test kitchen. It's Dino's kitchen, just to get the flavors right and to make sure it's right. And then I go to my copacker, say, all right, this is what we need to recreate. Yeah.
That's awesome. So how many sauces do you have kind of in a, because I'm sure you kind of lay one out, try a few things, and would you put it away for a few weeks before you start tweaking it? You take notes, or?
I take diligent notes, and I learned the hard way with my very first sauce, Scorpion Sting. It was more or less, I used 6 scorpion peppers, I used 3 carrots, and then I go to the copacker, and they're like, this means nothing to us. Were they 3 small carrots, big carrots, little carrots?
Like, carrots.
Yeah. So now everything is weighed, by grams.
Yeah.
So I can recreate it. You can recreate it. Anybody can recreate it.
Yeah. That's awesome. And from that, you basically have a formula, and then you give that to a copacker. That's how that works with
correct.
that?
Yeah. So I give it to my copacker. They recreate it in their test kitchen. They send me a sample, more this, less that. Dead on, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We fine tune it if it needs to be, and it'll come up with this unknown one that we're going to be doing a little bit later. It's darn near perfect, but me and the person at the copacker, we said we're going to just add 20% more garlic. I don't even need to taste it again. I know it's going to be spot on. Yeah.
So how is that? How do you equalize kind of the ingredients you're using and they're using? Do you like you just mentioned with garlic, you just kind of know what their garlic's going to be like, or you have more potent garlic at home? Or
No, and that's a good question. So some things like my blueberry has Vietnamese cinnamon. Vietnamese cinnamon is Vietnamese cinnamon, as long as you're using Vietnamese cinnamon. Early on in my career, I was with a different copacker, and they were using just like the store-bought cinnamon, and every time it just didn't taste
Wasn't right.
So they weren't comparing apples to apples. With my copacker, they take a lot of that into account. I'm telling them if I'm using dehydrated peppers,
Gotcha.
and they already have that formula in their head. All right, they're using dehydrated. That equals this amount of mash. So they take it away. I just tell them what I used.
Gotcha. Now, we hear mash a lot. So mash is traditionally going to be peppers, salt, vinegar,
Correct.
water.
Some, and they vary. Some
Okay.
have no salt and it's just vinegar. Some have extra salt. Some have no water. So it just depends on the producer. But yeah, that's usually no more than those 4 ingredients.
And is there any, not a shelf life, but a creation life where they made it on day one, they let it age at all, or is it pretty much they make it, or?
I can't guarantee, I won't say 100%, but if it's like most things, like when I create a new sauce, you should let it flavor for at least a week before you taste it. If you taste it day 1 and you taste it day 7, huge difference. All those flavors really come out after the 7th, 8th day.
So at home when you're testing out stuff, you'll make something, probably give it a finger lick when you try it.
Oh, I'm too impatient. Yes, yes.
And then from there you'll park it on the counter, or the fridge, or wherever.
Yep.
And just let it do its thing for a week.
Yep.
And then you crack it open, let it kind of marinate.
Yep.
That's awesome. And you have kind of notes on what is shifting generally in your opinion. Is it the acid more pronounced after that week, or the flavors seem to be more pronounced?
I think the flavors come out more depending what you're using. Like this, this is a strong garlic flavored sauce. When it was first produced, you could smell the garlic, but not as much as you could taste the garlic. A week, 2 weeks into it, it was way more pronounced.
So is that something you wanted, or did you find yourself pulling back on the garlic?
Oh no, it was what I wanted.
Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely what I wanted. That particular sauce was a private label for a restaurant bar up in Detroit, Gator Jake Sports Bar. It's my cousin's bar.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
He's a Louisiana style bar, and he wanted a Louisiana style sauce.
Make me something special.
So we created it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's cool. So and they still sell it and use it and everything?
He sells it, uses it on their menu. Whenever I'm in Detroit, I stop in.
You're like, oh, let's taste it. Because you sell it by the gallon as well, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of restaurants that buy it by the gallon.
And they're using it for everything from wings to
wings, crawfish boils, seafood boils.
That's great. Well, let's try it.
All right, very good.
And where did you put this on the heat level?
So this is the equivalent of, I would say, a Tabasco heat level. A lot more garlic. I'll pour you first.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. Not used to pouring myself, man. All right. Cheers.
Yeah. I love that sauce. It's traditional vinegar, but the garlic punch just makes it really delicious.
Yeah, and I always tell people, Louisiana style, that's the definition of Louisiana style. It's vinegar forward. They're usually very simple. Vinegar, cayenne, and salt.
Yeah. And then you've added a little bit of garlic to that to kind of change the profile of it a little bit.
Correct. And you see Tabasco, they've done the same thing. They've changed a lot of their recipes and made them they have some superb sauces, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's really fantastic. And is that one that sells well on both the restaurant level and everything else?
Yeah, it is by far my best-selling sauce, even though it's one of my more mild. On my lineup, I have 13 in production. That's number 3, so it's on the low end, but it's still my best-selling sauce, without a doubt. I usually get 40 gallons made every pallet because I sell them out in a year.
Really? Wow, that's a lot. And yeah, people like that flavor and everything else. So, besides, well, actually, let's jump on this real quick. So, Hotter Than L, where did the name come from?
So, Hotter Than L is named after my daughter.
Okay.
We always call her L. I always say she was a feisty little kid as a baby. So that's where the hotter, the little temper tantrum. She probably gets that from the old man.
Yeah. Does she know this story?
Oh yeah, she knows it. Yeah. Because if you look, and it might be hard to see, but there's a little devil cherub girl on the cover, and that's her. She's the icon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love that. I remember the first time I saw them, like, oh, that's really cool. And then I didn't know the story behind it. So that's fun to incorporate. Does she help you with any shows or anything else at all?
When she can. With school, it's a little
Yeah.
difficult for her. But yeah, I try to get her to go whenever possible.
Yeah. And she's like, hey, this is me.
Yeah, she works at the store with me and she does samplings for people.
Yeah.
So yeah, she has a blast.
That's really cool. So yeah, so Hotter Than L is your hot sauce line.
Correct.
And then you have a physical storefront in Sanford.
Yep.
Called Spice is Nice.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
so tell me about that.
Spice is Nice is basically a spicy food grocery store with spicy foods from around the world and drinks. So, I mean, it could be, I have spicy sparkling water. Sometimes it takes me a lot of research to find something. I get a wild hair and I'm like, I got to find something spicy that's this.
That's this, yeah.
And it took 6 months, but I found a spicy sparkling water. It's a mango habanero sparkling water.
And do you like it?
I do. And it sells well. People like it.
Wow, that's cool. Where is that from?
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's tasty.
Stumped me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there any spicy thing out there? Well, spicy thing you have in your head to find as spicy that you haven't been able to find? Like what's something you would like?
Yes, I am looking for a spicy yogurt
Okay.
and or a spicy milk. They make spicy cheeses. There's other spicy dairy products. I want a spicy yogurt and a spicy milk.
And so what your solution now is a little hot sauce in the yogurt?
Yeah, I will use usually like my blueberry or a mango habanero.
Oh my gosh, I bet that sounds delicious. We just tried hot sauce on ice cream for the first time like a month ago. And if you get like, blueberry or something like that, it's really tasty.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so on that line, I always tell people that my blueberry hot sauce is great on ice cream and they look at you like you got 3 heads.
Yeah.
So down in Sanford, I have a local ice cream marshmallow company, Wonder Made, and I collaborated with them and I now sell pints of a blueberry purple haze ice cream. So they take their vanilla ice cream and they swirl my hot sauce in it. We also collaborated where I do mango habanero marshmallows.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool.
You gotta just think outside the box, man.
Yeah, and so you sell that ice cream in your store and
the
they have
marshmallows.
it in theirs?
They don't do it in their store anymore, but they do sell their marshmallows. They actually sell way more of the marshmallows than I do.
Really?
Tons more.
That is really fascinating. So so I didn't even know you had those collaborations, but you just mentioned the Gator Jakes here as a collaboration, and then you have Duke's Brown Nose. Is that right?
Yep.
So tell me about how these collaborations work.
Yeah, so I'm all about working with local businesses in the same hopes that they want to work with a local business myself. So I used to be based out of Jacksonville, and I was kind of friends with the former owners of Bold City Brewery. And Kevin and I, we started chatting to do a hot sauce using one of their beers. So we did it with the brown ale. In Florida, it's one of the best-selling sauces, and because the label is the brown ale, Duke's Brown Ale label, so I think people, it's recognizable. They know it. They're familiar. They buy it.
And the vision with that was make a hot sauce that pairs with their brown ale.
Correct.
And is there brown ale in the sauce?
It's made with it.
It's made with it. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, for every pallet, I get 20 cases of beer to go in it.
Really, and it just dump it all in.
Yep. And people always ask about the alcohol because it's being cooked for at least 2 minutes at a certain temperature level. All the alcohol's burned off.
Right.
So you still have the beer flavor, but without catching a
buzz.
Catching a buzz.
But you can have the beer next to it catch the buzz.
Right.
Yeah, that sauce I love. It's really, really nice on tacos. Do you have any other collaborations?
Yeah. So then with Bold City, we also did with their 1901 roasted red ale, and that's the story of that beer in 1901. For those that don't know, that's when Jacksonville burned down. The big fire wiped out the city. So that was to commemorate the city burning down and rebuilding. So when we released the hot sauce with that beer, so it's a roasted red ale. I use roasted red tomatoes, red habaneros. So it just paired well. But we released it like almost within a day of the anniversary of the city burning down.
Very cool. And who is that with?
Bold City.
But that's also Bold City. Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah.
And what's kind of the flavor profile of that?
Yeah, so it's you get the roasted red ale right up front. Then you get that roasted red tomatoes. And it's a mild heat. That sauce won International Flavor Awards for first place for habanero sauce.
Wow, fantastic. So what do you find? So kind of changing gears here. I know you do a lot of shows. You're heavy on the show circuit. Do you have a memorable experience with someone trying your sauces where it went one way or another, or something that shocked you that people would find interesting?
I always get a kick out of, you get a lot of personality types coming up, and I love them all. I mean, for me, some of the best reviews are when people are just really enjoying. You can just tell they really enjoyed it. It's not what they expected, so that's always great. Then you get the folks that
What's your hottest?
I want your hottest, and that's it. They just want the hottest. So on those I usually pour heavy. I'm not a light pourer. I tell everybody.
You're like, let's go.
I would be a great bartender because I pour heavy. So I will load those up, and a lot of times, I've had people in tears, and it's, I don't want to say it's enjoyable, but on a sick side it is.
So you're, and as far as I know, none of your hot sauce have extracts, right? You're all peppers
Correct.
and natural.
Correct.
So for people that come up and they say they want the hottest, and I would say you're one of the makers, creators that does have these super hots and extremes. And does anyone that comes up to your booth asking for the hottest you got, are they surprised with how hot you have? Because they're used to going up and getting maybe a notch of like a habanero level hot sauce.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah. And I'll warn them. I'll say, look, are you sure? What do you normally? And the best is, I like hot. Trust me, I eat sriracha all the time.
Perfect.
I'm like, well, it's a few steps above sriracha, but so yeah, it's I think it puts them in place. I think they realize that maybe there's a lot more to hot sauce than the typical brands you see in the store or at a restaurant.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about your sauces is even increasing heat throughout the line, the flavor's still there, which is I can't say that about a lot of sauces. So with Love Burns and Molotov Cocktail, it's instant heat on those, but you still taste the flavor. Yeah. And especially when you're mixing it, like I like Love Burns with queso and things like that, and kind of softens the heat just a little bit.
Yep.
And one thing that I try to explain to folks that, there are flavors with ghost pepper, primo peppers, all of those peppers have a flavor, and almost like a video game challenge, or a video game level, the higher you can kind of tolerate, you then kind of unlock those flavors.
Yep.
Because if you give a ghost pepper sauce to someone right off the street that doesn't eat spicy food, they're going to, they blow up or whatever.
Yeah.
But for someone that eats that, you can really appreciate the flavor and how that mixes. So that's really fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Typically a lot of the super hots are a lot of them have a bitter taste to it.
Right.
And that's why a lot of companies back in the day, especially, used a lot of sweeteners to kind of kill that, curb that bitterness. I just always use the natural fruits and or veggies to kind of cut that
out.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned to me before about kind of the difference between, a couple things between Love Burns and Molotov Cocktail with the heat level, but then also how peppers, if they're in fresh form, if they're in powder form, kind of hit differently, like different timing in different places. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So in my Asian sauce, my Asian flair sauce, it has Thai pepper mash, and then it also has ghost pepper powder. So when I tell people that, they get a little bit antsy because ghost pepper, it used to be the hottest. Some people fear it, and I tell them the best way to describe it is you're going to taste it. By the time you're like, holy smokes, you lied to me, it's hot. Before you even finish that thought, it's already gone. It's a flash burn. And it's the powder. It's a quicker burn.
So the powder's a quick burn.
Yeah, the mash I feel sticks around longer. It's the gift that keeps giving.
Interesting. So then if you are really devious, you mix them both together and then it just that's great. Now, have you noticed any difference with, I know, different people react differently to different peppers. Have you noticed different peppers and where they hit on the tongue and everything?
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of them hit people differently. Like habaneros, most people it goes to the back of the throat.
Really?
It goes to the back of the throat. Other peppers, the sides of the tongue. This sauce, and it's all 7-pot primo, and it's literally like a wave over my tongue. It goes from the front to the back, to the front to the back. So it really is, it does hit people differently. And that being said, that may hit you completely different.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean that pepper is going to hit everyone the same way, but we'll do, a lot of times at my store when I'm doing samples, I'll do it right along with them because I'm not going to let them have all the fun.
Right.
So I'll pour myself as well. And it's funny listening to where it's hitting them and then compared to where it's hitting me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's such a great experience too with people coming in and like seeing their reactions because, you know, you're a sauce maker and a retailer. A lot of people are just one or the other, but that awesome benefit. Because I've said to hot sauce makers and kind of a known thing, it's a great place at shows and markets to get immediate feedback because people will try a sauce and like their face will tell you something immediately before they speak. And when you do these shows, you kind of get feedback on your sauces where you're getting insane feedback because day in, day out, you have all of your sauces, other people's sauces, and you're seeing how people react and that's got to be so beneficial with coming up new flavors.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And, and it's funny. I mean, I think I have 6 mango habanero sauces at my store, different brands. And they all sell. Every one of them sells great. It's just they all have a little bit different.
Yeah.
There's another Florida brand. He has honey in his. And people that like the sweet, it's one of the best-selling ones I have. So everybody just has a little bit different, a different twist.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because there's a lot of mango habanero sauces, but having that different twist is, it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of them because they're popular.
Yep. Yeah. It's success, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, what's the next one we have here?
24 karat. This is a Caribbean style. Caribbean style is typically sweetened like with carrots. Often Scotch bonnets, but I use habanero peppers in this one. So it's basically habanero, carrot, garlic, onion, lime juice, vinegar, salt. Very simple, very straight.
Let's get into it. Yeah.
All right. Gonna break the seal.
Yep. Now, how long has this one been in the lineup?
This has probably been I think this was my 4th sauce. My 4th sauce, so probably about 5 years, 6 years. Mm-hmm. I started quick. I did scorpion, then I released a ghost pepper sauce, then I released Raging Cajun, and then I think this was the 4th one. All right.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
There's our train coming through.
All right. Perfect time for hot sauce
for a hot sauce shot. Yep.
All right. Cheers.
Here we go. Cheers. That's delicious.
Yeah, and an interesting note with sauces, and sometimes customers don't always get it, but because it's produce, there's variety. It's going to vary. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the garlics may be stronger. Sometimes the peppers may be, more yellow. Like this is a great yellow batch. The last batch was a little more orange. So there's always going to be a little variability. But this one is great garlic forward. This batch.
Yeah, that's really fantastic, and it's starting to get up there in heat. I know for you, it's still like flavored water.
Well, no,
but
no. I mean, I always tell people at the store because they'll ask me, "Is this hot?" And I'm like, "You really don't ask me because my barometer's broken." But this was my inspiration for this was I spent a lot of time doing field work in my previous career in Jamaica. And I fell in love with a sauce down there, Caribbean style Jamaican sauce called by Eaton's, and it was their yellow sauce. And I always wanted to recreate it. It's not quite to where they got it, but I do enjoy it, and it's a super popular sauce.
Yeah, I love that. Now, what makes a Caribbean sauce a Caribbean sauce?
Typically, it's a Scotch bonnet pepper.
The Scotch bonnet, okay, which is what's in here.
This is actually habanero.
This is habanero, okay.
Yeah, but also lime juice and carrot.
Gotcha.
I usually have a citric and carrots.
And a carrot. Yep. And a lot of that is, I'm assuming, because that's local to the area there, and they're eating this on all their food, jerk stuff, tacos, everything.
And it's cheap filler,
Gotcha. Yeah, and what's your reaction to the store? Is there anything quite like this that you sell?
There's a couple, yeah. I have over 450 sauces from 15 countries currently, so there's a lot up there. But it is popular. It won best People's Choice Award at Zest Fest in Texas a few years ago. So it's definitely, a fan favorite.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then when you do a run, so going back to, I'm intrigued by kind of the flavor changing and evolving over time. So how many bottles are in a typical run?
It's usually about 160 cases, so 12 bottles to a case. So whatever that math is. I'm from Detroit.
Yeah,
I can't do that quick math.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what do you have? I know you have this one here in the works, but where do you see yourself with creation and more sauces that you're going to make?
So and I always tell people I have currently 48 sauces I got a book of recipes.
Wow.
I got 48 of them that I've made them all at home. But it gets to a point when you walk up, people come up to my booth at a show and you got, sauces from here to that end, they're overwhelmed and they just walk away.
Analysis paralysis.
Yeah. It's too much to take in. So it's kind of, I think what I'm going to probably do is I knock another one or two out, is probably pull one off and then just do it, every 2 years, kind of seasonally or sporadically.
Do you have any sauces that you got to full on legal production, everything that you've now pulled back that you don't make currently, or
not yet?
Everything you still that
everything
you've
is
made,
still, yeah. The first one that'll probably come off will be one of my 2 curry sauces.
And why is that?
I have 2 of them, and the milder of the 2 is not quite as popular. And again, it just gets overwhelming. So I think that's one I could pull off pretty easily without people really noticing.
Mm-hmm. Have you noticed, like, is there a difference between the customers coming into your store to sample and then customers or festival goers that come?
Early on in the store, it was definitely different, but now I think the store has got a name in it. I'm appreciative that people look at it as a hot sauce store, but it kind of frustrates me because I always said I don't want to own a hot sauce store. I want a spicy grocery store. I have frozen goods, refrigerated goods from all over the world. I mean, literally all over the world. So when people come in and say, "Oh man, great, a hot sauce store," I just roll with it. And, hey, if they're buying a hot sauce, great, man.
Yeah. And how does the spicy grocery stuff sell pretty well?
Certain things do. It's been I'm a little over a year and a half now, and I've learned some things, and I've made some big cuts on what is no longer going to be sitting on the shelves. And I will increase more sauces because the sauces do sell.
They sell. Yeah, because there's always a fine line with a lot of things where, sell something that people are familiar with that maybe has one little twist to it versus something that's completely new and novel. Like you really need an adventurous person to go after.
Yeah.
If you have a whole wall of spicy ramen, okay, I know ramen, I like spice. That to me seems like a pretty easy sell.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Versus other stuff that's a little bit more exotic. Like you really got to get the right person.
I mean, I have like squid jerkies.
Squid jerkies?
Yeah, it's called shredded squid, and it's from the Philippines and the Korea. And people that are familiar, either in the military that were stationed out in those areas, they buy it regularly, or I get people from the Philippines or Korea that buy it. But everybody else just kind of looks at it like, oh my gosh, no. And yeah, the flavor's great. You open it up, the odor
Pungent.
is off-putting, without a doubt. It will set you back.
It's like kombucha. You can't smell it before you drink it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what inspired you for that? Was that pop in your head?
No, it was me. I was curious. I saw it on one of my Asian distributors' lists, and I like bizarre foods. I'm all for it. The odder and the more bizarre, I will buy it at least once, if not for everybody else, for me to indulge.
To try it.
Yeah.
And is it spicy or is it just exotic?
It's got a little spice, yeah.
And
so everything in the store except maybe 3 items has some sort of chili in it. So that's the rule for the store for the most part.
And now I got to ask, what are the 3 things that don't have?
Bottled water.
Okay.
Because we're in Florida and it's hot
Yeah.
and people are always dying of heat.
Yep.
Edamame. And the reason I sell edamame is I sell these great wasabi and chili edamame seasonings. Well, if you come in to buy the seasoning, now you have to go to another store to buy the edamame. Well, that's silly.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have it where it's a one-stop shop. They can get that, they get their edamame, they split.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple a couple like seasonings that I sell, just variety of things.
That aren't too spicy.
Right. That's not chili peppers.
Yeah, that's great. Now, are you finding people, I'm assuming you have regulars that come in and so a dream would be to be able to like walk to a hot sauce store. So is there people that come in like once a week and buy a bottle or?
Yes. I have a guy that comes in once a month and he buys 10 bottles of one sauce.
10 of one sauce.
Loves the sauce. I have other people that guy with his wife and his daughter, and they come in usually every weekend, and he usually buys 3 or 4. He also buys 2 gallons of mine, a gallon of my Ghost and a gallon of my Gator Jakes.
Does he have a restaurant or?
No. He's like me. He has issues, and like you, he has issues.
So he's like a gallon of hot sauce a week?
He gets every couple months.
Oh, every couple months. Okay.
But he comes in and gets other sauces. Like now that I just coming back from shows, he always comes in right after to see what new sauces I'm bringing back.
He knows. He's like Pavlov. What about the 10 sauce guy? Does he have like a mini hot sauce club he does or?
No, he said he just loves it. And he's like an hour and a half away, but he drives out. I'm the closest place he can get it without getting it shipped and paying for shipping on 10 bottles. So he just comes and buys it.
And is he getting something different every time or?
Nope, the same 10.
Same 10.
Same 10.
Not 12.
Nope.
Not a case.
Nope. It's
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly right. What other interesting things have you learned with having the store that was maybe, the expectations versus reality? Like, is there anything that has kind of been something you thought and it's completely different for better, something you thought is different for worse? Anything that's interesting?
I think, obviously being a spicy foods only, it's a niche market. Mm-hmm. I have the mentality that everybody's thinking like me and you, that we all want spice. Well, it's not the case.
Right.
So the amount of, people coming in is not as prevalent as I would like it to be yet. So that was a hard lesson, as well as things that are that have a shelf life. Sauces are usually 3 years, so it's plenty. They sell no problem in time. Right. But I get a lot of cheeses or meats that once they're past, Best Buy,
you're eating them.
People will be, some people will still buy them at a discount and they don't care. And if not, let's just say I've been eating really good lately, even though it's past Best Buy.
Yeah. And that's awesome. I imagine the challenges of a grocery store and being a small shop there, because you do have a small online presence, but a bulk of it is through the door.
Yep, absolutely.
And Sanford's pretty good too at having their like street festivals and things like that I'm sure help drive folks in.
Oh yeah, second Sunday of every month is a food truck festival.
Oh, nice.
And it's on my street.
Oh,
so
nice.
The street's closed off. There's 2 streets totally closed off, 20 to 50 food trucks every month, and I get the foot traffic just walking by. So I always just put a sign in the window. Hey, want to spice up that great, food truck food? Stop in, get a hot sauce sample for it.
And you definitely see a lift from that.
Oh yeah, those days are slammed.
Yeah, that's awesome that people come in and can experience that, and you're sampling a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, I love the downtown Sanford area. I chose that location because of all the festivals. That was my previous career. I was living there. When I retired from that, I decided to stay there, not move closer to my daughter. Sorry, kiddo. But I wanted to just stay in Sanford.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And we've been down to the store, and the downtown area really is fantastic.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, and I know we only have 3 out here today, but this one has a Caribbean influence. Do you have any other, your sauces that have influences of different regions? Or like, I love that, you said in a past life how you did a lot of work down there. Is there any other stories like that with your sauces?
Let's see. My Asian sauce, as far as a different flavor profile, more kind of regional, ethnic. It's not from anything that I've done there.
Yeah.
It's just from my previous career. We were at a conference in somewhere out west, and we were at a place that was hosting like an icebreaker for us, and it was an Asian Gardens, and they had these cucumber gin drinks that were amazing. I fell in love with it.
Cucumber gin.
Correct.
Okay.
Amazing. So ever since then, it's always been, man, I need a cucumber forward sauce.
Yeah.
So that's what my Asian sauce is. It's a cucumber
Forward sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And any others with peppers or things like that with regions, or you go, this would be a good twist.
I want to do an Italian Calabrian pepper sauce. My problem is I'm like a kid in a candy store that I have too many wants, and I need to sometimes just reel it back and focus. Because you get a pallet of hot sauce made. I mean, it could be anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000 depending on how hot it is. And last month it was a good problem to be sold out of 4, but I had to get 4 pallets made in one day. The math in my head, scared me because that's a big check to write.
Right. Now I've heard, so typically the hotter the pepper, the more expensive it is.
Correct.
And why is that? Is that there's less made, or the growers can charge more, or what do you?
I would like to not think it's supply and demand. They know people want it, so they're charging more. I honestly have no clue.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I'm like, is a really super hot pepper that much more difficult to grow than a cayenne?
And it might be because it's also, a lot of them are limited. Not a lot of people are growing them because the release of those peppers are only to some people. So not everybody can get their hands on them to start a full-blown cultivation process.
Right.
But yeah, like when I first made my first super hot compared to my Gator Jakes.
Which was what?
My first super hot was Love Burns.
Okay.
And it had the 4 hottest peppers on there. It was Ghost, Scorpion, Reaper, and 7-Pot Primo. 4 of the hottest peppers, to be clear. And when I got that bill for that pallet, it was it was 3 times the cost of this. I fell out of my chair because I didn't even think about it. And that was my first reality of, wow, these super hots really do cost more.
Yeah, so you created it at home in your kitchen and everything, and when you have let me get a $20 bag of peppers here, you don't really put it together until and then you give here's the formula to the copacker, and they say, okay, we'll do it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and they quote, they give me the price first, and they say this is what it's going to cost. And I remember sticker shock looking at that estimate, and I was like, whew. But I pulled the trigger, and it turned out it was a sauce on hot ones, and probably one of my top selling sauces now.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite super hots. I love it. So do most customers, and once again, you have the advantage of having a storefront, are they aware, they acknowledge that when it's a $15 bottle of hot sauce versus $9.99?
Yeah.
They're ready for it.
Yep. Yeah, most of the true hot sauce folks, they get it. They truly do understand, and they expect it. Like I have some that are super hots, but a little lower priced, and they're always like questioning it. And I'm like, it's a good sauce. The guy makes it, and he's not looking to gouge people. He makes it for a good price.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So tell me back to the Calabrian, right?
Yep.
And that's an Italian pepper?
Correct.
And is there any hot sauce culture in Italy, or are they?
Yeah, I actually have 2 hot sauces in my shop that are Italian-made sauces.
And what are those like?
One of them, the brand is Ferrelli. I sell a ton of it. It's not my style. The other one is a Calabrian hot sauce with both oil and vinegar. It's a little saltier, but I use that a lot in cooking, and I just don't add salt then because I'm using the salt that's already in it. But with the oil, it's great on pizzas. It's great on any kind of eggplant parmesan, anything like that. It's just fantastic.
And Calabrian, what's the Scoville on that? Is 100-ish, like cayenne-ish?
Yeah, it's not too hot.
Not too hot.
Yeah.
And can you get those fresh for a sauce, or would you use powder or flakes?
So most places that make them, they get a mash.
They get a mash.
Yep.
That's really cool. All right, tell me about this.
All right, so this is the newbie that's coming out, and I just had this at the show, and I use it at my store to let people sample it to kind of, because I like to, before I just roll it out, I want to get feedback.
Right.
So the big secret reveal is this is basically an amped up Gator Jakes. I always wanted a super hot Louisiana style. I love Louisiana style flavor. I love that vinegar forward. I love that garlic. But it wasn't hot enough for me.
Right.
So
I'm really excited about this.
So this was the creation. I will say though, in tasting this with the super hots in there, and this is all 7-Pot Primo, With the super hot, it does kind of, you don't pick up the garlic as prevalent. It's the same recipe, so the same amount of garlic, but it just gets overpowered. So the new one will have another 20% more garlic added. So
to
it's
step it up
similar.
a little bit.
Yep.
Now, what am I trying to ask? What's the pepper in Gator Jake's?
That's just cayenne.
Just cayenne. Okay.
And this is cayenne, so the same recipe, but then with both 7-pot mash and 7-pot primo powder.
So it's going to be all over.
It's good. That's a little bit of an evil laugh.
Oh, goodness.
And you notice as it gets hotter, I pour heavier.
Yeah, so Dino has filled up my spoon here. So
cheers, man.
Cheers. Dino's not even going to make a face. Woo! That is hot. But maybe a little bit of confirmation bias since you told me about the garlic, but this is going to be a trouble speaking thing for me. Like my mouth makes so much saliva. Hold on, just a little. I know water spreads it around. It doesn't make it better, but I like it. Yep, that is, even if you didn't tell me, I would have said, yeah, that's like a hot Gator Jake's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. But same thing with Love Burns and Molotov cocktail. You still maintain the flavor.
Yeah, and it's always important. The joke's always been that I'm all about flavor first, and if I make someone cry, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
So this, to me, was not hot enough. I wanted to make it hotter, and every single person that tried it's like, it's good where it's at.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I could eat it hotter. But
Me too. Me too, trust me.
But, because that was a pretty good spoonful. I'm just trying to imagine. Yeah, if that was like dumped on wings, it'd be lighting your lips up.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we're probably going to do a little bit more powder in there. This is my only sauce that uses xanthan gum. And xanthan gum, it is a natural product. It's a processed natural product, just like the wheat you eat in your bread. Some people don't like it if it has xanthan gum in it. They consider that artificial. They consider it fake.
So let's talk about that for a second. Not to derail this conversation,
No.
but it's a natural byproduct of a microorganism, right?
Correct.
Is the issue that it's a funny sounding name, or I know some people have an allergic reaction to it, but it's pretty minute, right?
Yeah, I've never had that issue yet.
You've never met someone that...
I've had more cinnamon allergies from my blueberry where they can't have it than I've never had anybody yet from the xanthan gum.
Xanthan gum.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always tried it because there seem to be two camps with people that, yeah, it's fine. And people are like, oh no, that makes it unnatural. And I feel like I haven't gotten to the bottom of that.
Yeah. So if this did not have xanthan gum, it just separates really quick. So you would have the vinegar at the top and all the sediment at the bottom, which is fine. You just shake it and it's good. But when it's on the shelf, it doesn't look good.
Right.
So
that's a binder.
Yep. It's basically a binder.
Yeah.
This one, I want to do it without xanthan gum. So we're going to try adding more garlic powder, more 7-pot primo powder a little bit, and hope that thickens it up. And the reason is there's a big buyer and maybe a big TV show that they won't use anything with xanthan gum.
Gotcha. Oh, really? Wow.
So
it gets you queued up to make a run at that.
To be on that show yet again.
Interesting. Yeah, that was fantastic. And it was your brother in Michigan that has the bar?
Cousin.
Have you sent him this yet?
No, but first I have not because I'm still working. I'll send it when I get the final. But I reached out to him just to make sure because again, it's his logo. I want to make sure that, I talked to my artist. Hey, I want to make this demonic, fire breathing.
Yeah.
Just take it away with your artistic, justice. But she's like, is your cousin okay with you altering his logo?
Right. Well,
that's me not thinking. So I reached out to him. He's like, I don't care. He goes, heck yeah, man, go for it.
And he'll probably carry it too, right?
Oh yeah.
Because there's always someone that's going to want something hotter.
Yep.
So does it have a name yet, or is that still secret?
It does not. It does not. Not that it's secret. I just haven't come up with it yet.
Yeah.
I let my daughter do a lot of the work with me on some of the names. She actually drew one of the labels, my Asian label. I let her do it. All my labels were done by one person. I've always used this person. She's fantastic. Used to work with her. But I told my daughter I would let you do my next sauce. And at the time, it was my Asian sauce. So she did it. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So after hearing your story and everything, it sounds more like you're the sauce guy than the label and the name and all that sort of stuff kind of falls into place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really kind of, I'm kind of naive. So my hot sauce, the blueberry one, is called Purple Haze. Well, my era, 58, was thinking Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze.
Right.
So I tell my artist, hey, take it away, draw what you want. So she sends me this logo, and it's like this hippie dude smoking a joint, and I'm like, "What?" She goes, "You don't know what Purple Haze is?" I have no clue.
Yeah.
Well, now I know,
Yeah.
and I get people ask me continuously, "Oh, is it because it has 420 in there? Or is it in?" No, it's got nothing to do with that. But so yeah,
And there's a beer too, right?
Yeah,
is there the Purple Haze beer?
Yeah, it's Purple Haze, a beat of beer.
Yeah. That's really good. So what's in store for you for 2024? Anything? I know we have this, which was fantastic, but anything new, exciting, or directions you're running with stuff?
Yeah, I have at least 2 more sauces in addition to this one that'll be coming out. One is for a potential show that may be coming out that that one of my sauces did well on. So we'll see if that rolls out. It will be a Chicago style hot dog.
Really?
Hot
Wow.
sauce.
That sounds awesome.
I got samples from the first batch I made, and all the reviews I got so far at the store have been fantastic.
Wow.
And then one with a local brewery down in Sanford. They have a really heavy beer, a stout, and they like super hot. So we're going to do a scorpion pepper stout.
Wow.
So when I do the sauce, they're going to do a release of a keg of scorpion.
That's fantastic. Did they come to you? They came to you?
Yeah, and I've known these guys for a while. It's
Yeah.
literally a 3-minute walk from my shop.
Oh my! They have any of your sauces now?
They come in and buy from me, and I go in and indulge there.
Did you tell me? Is it Love Burns is like a wing sauce at one of the places?
Yeah, so the bar restaurant right across the street from me, the station, they use my Love Burns as their XXX wing sauce.
And you said people buy it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's popular now. A lot of people, they get people trying to send it back for their money back, even though they tell them.
No.
Yeah. And they also use my spice blend. I do have a seasoning blend, and they use that on all their pork dishes, their pork tacos. They use that, and they use it on one of their appetizers.
Yeah.
So it's great. Again, but going back to that collaboration, it's great collaboration. The restaurant next to them uses Gator Jakes in their Bloody Marys for their spicy Bloody Marys.
Really?
So-
and I bet those are delicious.
Oh yeah.
So you said the stout you're going to do, that's going to be with scorpion pepper?
Yeah.
Have you started that yet?
I did. I made the first batch, and they said their clientele said it was too hot. So I'm going to go from 6 scorpions. I'm going to drop it to 4 for the small batch to see how that does for them.
And how many, so like if you go from 6 to 4 in a batch at home, how many bottles does that make?
6.
6. Okay.
So it's basically 1 scorpion pepper per bottle.
And
is
that
what
was
the
too
first
much.
One. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it was definitely
It was
warm.
hot. What color is that?
It came out a nice reddish brown.
Reddish brown.
Because their beer is a nice dark, deep brown.
And then you're basically putting the beer in just like it's an ingredient?
Yep.
Now are you subbing like water basically or what is the beer replacing?
What's it taking the place of? Actually, there's no liquid that it's replacing. I just will add more substance, more produce, more, whatever that other stuff may be.
Other stuff is to come back with it.
To thicken it.
Yeah, that's really fantastic.
And again, a lot of it boils out. A lot of that liquid will boil out in the
right,
process.
and leaves you with it. And you can really taste the stout in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, it got to the point where the scorpion was like smacking your face, and between the pain receptors crying, you could get a hint of beer.
Yeah.
So maybe toning it
Tone it
down
down.
would be okay.
Now, what do they want to use that on? They want it to be like a wing sauce, or just on the table.
They just want it on the table. Just a
Yeah.
collab. Yeah, because they know I did it with Bolt City Brewery, and they like both of those sauces. So
Yeah, I love this. This is your thing. Just do the breweries and pair something up.
yeah, my next one I want to nail is a rye whiskey.
Okay.
And I'm working with a distillery down there also because I have a rye whiskey recipe already. I had a local distillery in Jacksonville when I lived here that was going to do it, but one pallet required 40 gallons of rye, and they are 40 pounds of rye, and they were like, we can't. It's just too much to take the hit on.
Wow. Now, on the cooking side, does the liquor really complicate things or not really? You're still cooking it?
It's still cooking out, but you have to be below a certain limit. I think it's below 10% for legally for it to be not considered, any kind of.
So we could still have 10%. Oh, 10% of the liquid, not 10% alcohol.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah,
Which is a big difference.
Yep. Yeah, it's 10%. It can't be more than 10% of the ingredients.
And then are there other agencies involved when you start doing that? Like, your copacker, you can deliver the whiskey and.
They can buy it themselves through their copackers. When I get the brewery, I deliver it. If I have to get it from a distributor by them, then it gets a little bit more tricky.
Right.
But yeah, it's
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
It's really the animal products that starts to get crazy, right? When you're over a percentage, when you put in the meats and butters and fat, that kind of thing.
Maybe I haven't done that, so I don't know.
Because that's where you're getting into. I believe it's, and I'm sure people will correct me in the comments, but I think it's USDA. Once you start getting animal products, it gets away from FDA and gets complicated. Yeah, I'm just talking to people that are like, yeah, you want to put bacon in it, you want to do milk, this, that, and the other. It's a whole nother regulatory thing. That's why I was curious with the alcohol. But since you've gone down that path,
10%, I think it's 10% was the number.
Gotcha. That's really fascinating. And then so that distillery, they want to serve the sauce just with people that come in and try stuff and food.
Yep. And then sell it also. They'll just be selling it also, just like I will.
Now, have you experimented with that sauce yet?
Not cooking. I let it sit out, and the longer it sat, one of the changes I need to make is change the onion I used because as time went on, it got more bitter. So I have to, and I know the mistake I made when I did it. I didn't have the onion I used in the other sauce,
Gotcha.
beer sauces. So I used what I had at home, and
Mistake. Hey, that's the cool thing is you've been doing this so long and you have so many sauces. I'm sure your first go at a new sauce now, you have like a really high base level, and then you can kind of tweak from there.
Yeah.
And like you just said, okay, well, I know 4 or 6 scorpions and a 6 bottle. That's a 6 batch. So you just know right off the bat where to start stuff.
Yep.
Which is, I think that's really, really fantastic. Awesome. So one thing I like to ask everyone is, anyone getting into the industry, what advice do you have if you could go back and tell past Dino?
Go with it, man. Don't listen to people if they tell you it's too difficult, it's too hard. It's only hard if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Are you going to stumble? Sure. I mean, I stumbled. We all stumble. But that's how you learn. It's just a matter of getting back and trying again. I have 13 sauces made. I've probably made 40 different attempts at those 13 sauces, and a lot of them were trash and had to be ditched and start over again. Be it, that onion's too bitter, or that garlic was too this or that. It's just a process.
Yeah.
Play, learn in your house, and then when you get it. But the most important thing I tell people is weigh what you do. Weigh it, because otherwise
from the get-go,
because otherwise you do it and it's like, man, that was great. Let me recreate it, and then all of a sudden, well, heck, I don't know how much I put in.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I wish I learned earlier, because it would have saved me at least a year.
Really, a year?
Because I had all my recipes. None of them were by weight. None of them.
So you had to go back and redo it, and then even then, I'm sure you
had it all.
Trial
and error.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, well, 3 peppers. Shoot, I don't know what. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, to do it all by, because you don't, you think teaspoon, tablespoon, and that can fluctuate. And pepper, like you said, well, what is it? A baby carrot, or is it a gigantic carrot?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great advice. But a year, that's wild. That it puts you back.
Yeah,
that's great advice. Well, great. Well, where is you have your store in Sanford. Yep. We have viewers all over though. Where is the best place to follow along with what's going on with Hotter Than L? You can go on it has a Facebook page, Hotter Than L Facebook, and also an Instagram, and also a website,
cool. HotterThanL.com.
Awesome. We'll have to check it all out. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate coming on the show today. Thank you so
much.
much. Thank you, everybody.